Good morning, and it's a beautiful song. I think we got the message that we're being called upon today to learn about the situation of homeless and to put a little more love in our hearts. Our service is entitled Another Day in Paradise. Coastal Orange County may seem like paradise to most of us, and definitely to our visitors who come to enjoy the beautiful things we have here. The sand, the beaches, the sand, the sun, the flowers, it's paradise. Unless, of course, you are on the street and you have no roof over your head. It can seem like these streets of ours are very mean streets. This morning, we'll be hearing what it's like for the homeless among us. Their problems can be complex, perplexing, and seemingly intractable. They're very difficult problems, but there are things that we can do to increase our knowledge and to try to help this situation in some way. For these fellow humans, let's put a little more love and compassion in our hearts today. And if possible, help to ease their way. We have an established connection with the food bank and the alternate sleeping location in Laguna Canyon for the homeless among us in Laguna Beach. Your donations of food or funds to this program or to the programs recommended by our speaker today can make life a bit easier for people who are very far down on their luck. My name is Noreen Kukkonen, and I'm honored to be the worship associate this morning. And a big part of that is because I really don't know what it's like on the street. I'm looking forward to this opportunity to learn. Our Zoom needs are in the skillful hands of Don West Jr., and we have Carol Cole giving us melodies that greatly enhance our worship situation and uplift our spirits. So thank you both. And our wonderful Kendra Romans isn't with us this morning, I don't think, but she has her small children to take care of on every morning, but she does such great work for locating our speakers and making my job when I'm worship associate so much easier. And I greatly appreciate that. And I appreciate Cindy Williams for her efforts to tell the world what we're doing. She works on our technical issues. Excuse me. She works on Facebook, I think. I'm muffling that because I'm not really sure. She does Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. So we greatly appreciate those efforts. And that goes for everyone else who believes in our fellowship and works to preserve it, maybe by serving on the board or by taking care of the building or by keeping us fiscally responsible. We'll have a commercial for that a little bit later. We do what we can to maintain our connections in support, concern, and love for each other. This congregation is open to all who are in accordance with our principles, mission, and vision. I'm a part of UUFLB because I believe in the principles of Unitarian Universalism. And by participating in worship with you, I'm reminded of these values and encouraged to work harder to embody them. If this sounds good to you and you're new to us today, please know that you're welcome here. Our community is one of mutual caring and serious intent to become better people. Years ago, our anthropologist Margaret Mead was asked by a student what she considered the first sign of civilization in a culture. This student expected Mead to talk about fish hooks or grinding stones or even a simple clay tool. But no, Mead said that the first sign of civilization in an ancient culture was a femur that had been broken and then healed. Mead explained that in the animal kingdom, if you break your leg, you die. You cannot run from danger, get to the river for a drink, or hunt for food. You're meat for the prowling beasts. No animal survives a broken leg long enough for the bone to heal. A broken femur that has healed is evidence that someone has taken time to stay with the one that fell, has bound up the wound, has carried the person to safety, and has tended the person through recovery. Helping someone else through difficulty is where civilization starts, Mead said. We are at our best when we serve others. As we learn more today about our fellow humans who make up the homeless population, let's reinforce what UU Reverend Rob Hardy's calls our spiritual posture of embrace. We're guided by the principles that the UU faith is based upon. Today's service reflects almost all of these principles. As we consider what we can do to help, let us aspire to a straight and solid spiritual posture of embrace for the homeless among us. For love is the spirit of this church. Our faith calls us to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to serve human need. Our chalice lighting this morning is by video, and one of our members, Paul Schmidt, is very much missing our congregation with open doors. So he was delighted to light our candle this morning. If you have one at home, please light yours now.
Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering the pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, that anger won't tear us apart. And light one candle to bring us together with peace as the song in our heart.
Thanks to Paul. He can't hear us, but he'll be very happy to see you all when he can come back to our community. And I will look forward to hearing his sonorous voice when we're singing our hymns. Our chalice is the only symbol of the UU faith. It illuminates a world that we feel called upon to serve with love and a sense of justice. Our longtime member, Paul, was gracious to light our candle today. The centering thought today is about homeless in a metaphorical sense. And this really is kind of the essence of why we have this program today. We, as our opening music said, we wish to put a little more love in our hearts. And the basic bottom line is to help that person who needs it. Our centering thought, our listening creates sanctuary for the homeless parts of another person. Dr. Rachel Remen. The Reverend Roy T. Bennett said, learn to light a candle in the darkest hours of someone's life. Be the light that helps others see. It is what gives life its deepest significance. Our opening hymn today is number 188 in the great hymnal, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Please sing. The words will be in your chat.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, I'm going to turn this a bit. Please join with me. Come,
you, Carol. We've come to the time when we state out loud our reasons for being part of UUFLB. This is our unison affirmation. These are the goals that we believe in and keep trying to reach. I invite you to unmute your microphone and read the words of the unison affirmation together. They're on your screen. We might not sound in sync, but our shared desire to grow our souls is definitely in sync. May we be reminded
here
of our highest
highest
aspirations
aspirations
and
and
desire
to bring our
to
gifts of love
and service to
to
the
the
altar
altar
of
of
humanity.
May
We know once again
that we are
not
not
isolated
beings, but
connected
connected
in mystery,
mystery and
miracle
miracle to the
to the
universe,
universe, to this
this
community,
community,
and
and
to each
to
other.
each other.
At this time in our service, we stop the recording and share with each other the important things that have happened in our life in the last week. It might be a joy, something wonderful that happened, or a sorrow that we can support you with. So we have fiscal responsibility. Our offertory is the time when we make ourselves fiscally sound. There's a lock on the front door of our UUFLB building, but the bills keep sneaking under it. Funny thing. Remember, please, to make your financially responsible contribution, for it is as much a blessing to give as to receive. We're so grateful for all that we have in our lives. I think we'll feel more so after our speaker this morning. We're so grateful. We have roofs over our heads. We have food on our tables, so we give. The funds we gather collectively do a lot more than if we were solely contributing on our own. So please consider that when you contribute to UUFLB. May there be an offering just to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope. The information on your screen shows you two ways to send a check. Two ways to give to UUFLB. One is online with PayPal or Tithely, or send a check. The church still needs funds to keep the building standing and the other services that we do contribute to. We have a second slide today, and it has to do with the programs that our speaker recommends today. But I also want to remind you that on a smaller scale, we still contribute food to the homeless project in Laguna Canyon. And occasionally they're really short on a component or two for the meal. So if you feel you can help the homeless who get aid at that location, please talk to Candy. You can talk to Candy or to John and Bruce, who run that program very effectively. Everyone's a volunteer. So it's really nice if when somebody's on vacation, for example, there's a list of people who can help out. In terms of the charities or the business, they're not businesses, I can't seem to say words today. The facilities that are recommended by our speaker, that they do a much bigger, broader effort and can help a lot more people. So please consider if you are able to contribute to those endeavors. Thank you. One is Friendship Shelter and the other I Hope. So that information is also in your email blast that came with the notice of this event today. So it's there. Let's sing our words of sincere gratitude for what we have, because we really do have a lot and we often take it for granted. We are here to learn how to love more and to have more compassion in our lives. So the words are from you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
I receive,
You I give, together we share, and from this we live.
thank you, Carol. We're fortunate people here, no doubt about it. Yet we are here at UUFLB because we keep trying to build a house of our dreams, one that has its foundation in our faith's principles. The poem, A House for Our Dreams, is a reflection on what that precious place can be. A House for Our Dreams by Dory Summers. We, all of us, build houses for our dreams. The masonry and lumber, glass and tiles, a solid form wherein we see our hopes, a shelter and protection for our growth. This house shall be a dwelling place for courage, for integrity, for love engendered, nourished by a family that speaks of we, and means all humankind. These walls shall represent the privacy and dignity of individuals. The open doors are welcome to all people, all ages, and all generations. The windows shall keep light of inquiry, illumining from outside and within. May all words spoken here be born of love and energy, rekindle in the hearts of those who dreamed this house, who plied the tools and paid the price to actualize the dream. May dreaming never cease for those within who know the world to be a troubled place, but dare to struggle with imperfectness toward that brighter hope, that better day. Let memories add warmth, a heritage, a quilted patchwork stitched with history of kindliness, of daring for the good, of funny moments, jokes, and smiles and tears. This is a precious place, as every home that shelters those who love and strive and share. Its blessing is in lives that meet within, in living, learning, caring, sheltered here. We welcome today our guest speaker, Maura Mikulec, who will tell what it's like when shelter and serenity are nearly forgotten dreams from the past. She's a tireless worker among the unhoused and chronically homeless in Orange County. Maura received her early training on the streets of New York when earning her bachelor's and master's degrees in social work from NYU. After a career in mental health, medical social work, and child protective services, and then staying home to raise her children, she spent the last 4 years as a volunteer advocate for people experiencing homelessness in Southern Orange County. She also founded the South County Homeless Task Force and is a member of Housing is a Human Right OC, a welcoming neighbors home, all of which advocate for solutions to the housing crisis in Orange County. We're very pleased to have Maura with us this morning and hope to learn a lot more and build the compassion that we feel in our hearts. Maura?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Noreen, for that introduction. Oh, hi, I see you waving. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm happy to speak with you all, as well as like the millions of people that are going to watch this when the video goes viral. So I'm going to jump right into our program today, assuming the technology works. So hopefully I will be sharing my screen very soon. Can you all nod if you can see my screen now? Yes, yes, I see you. Okay, thank you. All right, so Tales from the Street, homelessness in Orange County. And I'm advancing the slide in 1 second. Bear with me on my technology skills. Here we go. Okay, so this is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about some of the myths and false narratives. I'm going to touch on the idea of criminalization of people who are homeless. I'm going to share with you some real stories that will illustrate.
Mira, I don't want to throw you off, but you're sharing your note screen and not the slide screen.
Oh, thank you so much. I don't want to give away my secrets. Okay, hold on 1 second. I will get the right one. I need to be thrown off. Okay, desktop too. All right. Okay, now you're seeing the right screen, right? Yes, not? You're seeing
Yes,
Yes,
that's
yes.
the green one. Okay, okay, that time didn't count for my time, right? Right? Okay, starting over. All right, so I already told you, I'm gonna talk about the myths, the false narratives, criminalization. I'm gonna share with you some real stories from the street that'll help illustrate some of these truths. I'm gonna touch on solutions if I have time, and also some small ways that you can make a difference, again, if I have time. Okay, myths and false narratives. So here's a big one. They're not from here, right? You've all heard it. So as you can see though, on the graphic, the fact is that 73% of the people who are homeless in Orange County had as their last permanent address, Orange County. Also, you can see that only 9% of the people were from outside of the state. It's a known fact that most people who are homeless stay in their communities. They have a sense of home, just as we all do. And for what it's worth, everyone that I'm going to be talking to you about today is from here. Okay, so this next one, why are we not advancing? I'm sorry. The arrow worked a minute ago. Sorry, y'all. What is happening? Let's see if there's another way I can do this. Okay, I found another way to advance. I apologize, sorry. The dress rehearsal didn't pay off. Okay, so this is the big myth. This is an important one. They were all offered services, but refused. So what you'll hear in the stories that I'll be sharing is that the services and the service providers are very limited. There's minimal rental assistance, there's no affordable housing. The process of getting help is really challenging beyond what you can even imagine, and it's time consuming. And the things that people are offered are often not what they need. And you'll see from the folks in these stories that they all want help, and they've all been seeking help for a very long time. So suffice it to say, this is a myth and a dangerous one. So why is it important that we correct this narrative? Well, I believe it's one of the most critical things that needs to happen in order for us to even begin to address homelessness. This particular myth causes harm to people because then the people are blamed for their own plight, and they get hate directed at them and sometimes even violence. But also, this narrative prevents us from seeing the real problem. So then we, the public, we're never even demanding the right solutions. So now I'm going to jump into some of the personal stories. Nope, I'm sorry, I take it back. Now I'm going to jump into the issue of criminalization. I apologize. Okay, so this is an actual social media post by the now mayor of San Clemente. When he was asked what the solution is, none of them were helping people. So I've highlighted this is one of his proposed solutions: aggressive law enforcement and prosecution. We need to create aggressive enforcement so they go to soft targets. Note that this, nor any of the other ideas of his, was actually going to end anyone's homelessness. So let's look at what aggressive enforcement looks like. So you can see here all these citations. These are real citations. from real people, and they are for things like obstructing the sidewalk, illegal camping, yes, sometimes an open container, but my favorite was harassment of animals. This was given to a very mentally ill woman who can be kind of childlike and very sweet, and honestly, I forget exactly what she was doing. I think she was just feeding seagulls or something. But I remember when I heard the story, I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? You know, that she got a citation for this? It was so ridiculous. And it's constant for folks who are living outdoors. So I want to tell you one particular story. This is about one of my guys named Steve. That's not actually Steve in the photo. So Steve was sitting on those steps though, with a friend, eating lunch, eating a sandwich that someone had given him. And a deputy came up to him and told him he was going to write him a citation. Well, the friend who knew the law said that, no, the ordinance is just that we can't be up on that train platform, not that we can't sit on the steps. And the deputy said, well, we'll let the courts figure that out, and proceeded to write the citation anyway. I see your mouth aghast. So thankfully that's on body cam or video recorder, so it will get sorted out. But think about the waste in this. Think about the police time, the courts, the judges, the public defenders, everything that goes into dealing with this frivolous citation. And think of the money that's spent on this kind of enforcement. So let's look at what happens though. So even worse is what it does to people. It traps people in a cycle that makes it harder and harder for them to rise out of their circumstances. So here's a typical scenario that happens often. Someone's given a citation and on it has a court date. They go to court on that date, but they find out that they're not actually on the court calendar for that day. They're supposed to receive a notice in the mail of a new court date. Well, it's hard to get your mail. A lot of people don't get their mail. So ultimately, they end up missing court. And people can miss court for a lot of other reasons when they're trying to survive on the street. But when they miss court, they get a warrant for their arrest. Eventually, they get arrested and they go to jail. Sometimes it might just be for overnight, sometimes longer, but it starts this whole process where now they've lost some of their valuables, maybe family photos. They've lost important documents, maybe a birth certificate or California ID, and it just pushes them even farther down and makes it harder for them to work their way out of the situation. And the cycle just continues and continues. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce you to some of my people, as I call them. Okay, so these are some of the real stories. So first I want to talk to you about Barb. Barb is actually a resident of Laguna Beach, a renter for 20 years. She became disabled after working full-time most of her life and raising her family. And when she became disabled, her landlord actually lowered her rent so that she could afford to stay there. But fast forward to 4 months ago, and the building was under new ownership. And the new landlord wants to remodel and, of course, raise the rent. And she, on her limited income from disability, couldn't find another place to rent. So Barb is now living in her car and has been for the last 4 months. She spends every night trying to find a safe place to sleep and a legal place to sleep. Also, where is she going to shower? How is she going to use the bathroom? I mean, it gets worse and worse. She's struggling with incontinence, but living in her car, it's ugly, it's bad. And the thing about this is that she's a smart woman. She is capable of advocating for herself, but she is still struggling to get help. She's been trying for 4 months to get off the street, and the help is just not there. Okay. So that's just one example of people who end up in their cars. And there's so much more I could say about that, but I'm going to go ahead forward. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you about Tanya. This is actually Tanya. Tanya is a woman who was disabled with a medical condition since childhood. So I don't have time to tell full stories. I just want to focus on certain pieces to illustrate certain things. So Tanya got what's called a housing voucher, which is going to help her with her rent. And she did get this because she was disabled. But it's really important to know that she also got this from some special COVID funding. these vouchers are usually very difficult to come by. But when we got a whole bunch of COVID funding into the county, a bunch of housing vouchers became available, but only still for a select few people. So she got one of these housing vouchers that's supposed to pay for her rent. And then she's also assigned to a housing navigator who's supposed to help her find an apartment. Well, again, this is a really long story, or it could be. I could spend the whole time talking about this, but she wasn't getting the help she needed. I mean, for example, she had this voucher for 4 months, and yet she had not been applied to even one single apartment by her housing navigator. Now, I had been helping her, but no one else was. And with having no credit and not being able to pay for the rental application fees, and even the value of the voucher being as low as it is, she was just not able to find a place. So she had this voucher for about 6 months when she suffered a major medical crisis as a result of her previously existing condition. And she was found unresponsive on the street. She was rushed to the hospital. She was in the ICU for a number of days. She started to recover some, but it was determined that she had suffered a brain injury. So Tanya is now cognitively disabled, and she's no longer able to live independently. So she's not going to use her voucher now. So not the most important thing, but imagine also what all of that care, ICU, ambulance, and the care she needs now is costing. And we'll talk a little bit more about the cost issues later. Okay, so I want to tell you about Georgie. I love this guy. Georgie was also one who was lucky enough to have the housing voucher. But like Tanya, he wasn't getting the help he needed to actually get a place. He was pretty low functioning. He needed a lot of hand holding. And he wasn't getting it because the caseloads are just too high. The caseworkers want to help people. But there's just not enough of them. They're not well paid. There's staffing changes. There's so many problems. But he had this housing voucher for almost a year. Now remember, this is how he looked, but I mean, he had help. He wasn't refusing services. He wanted help, but this is still how you would see him. He was even in a motel at one time, again, from COVID funding, but that funding ran out and he's back on the street. So at about a year in with having this voucher, he died. So Georgie just died this month at the age of 55. And I am certain that even though he had health issues, he would be alive today if he had a safe place to live. And remember, he wanted help. So now I'm going to talk about Wes. So Wes, he's a rad guy. He's super intelligent. He's legally blind. He can see some, but he's legally blind and very impaired visually. So I'm looking at my time. I'm going to rush through some of this and just get to one of the points I wanted to make about Wes. So for various reasons, he recently decided to give a try to go to the shelter. In fact, he went to the shelter in Laguna Canyon that your congregation supports at times. So he went to that shelter, but because of his visual impairment, he couldn't deal with it. He lasted one night there. He was bumping into people. It was really uncomfortable for him. So many strangers there that he didn't know, many with severe mental illness. He was having a hard time eating because he can't see his food. He can't use utensils. He hasn't been blind his whole life, so he didn't, grow up and learn all the right things. So, he usually eats with his hands, and he's uncomfortable doing that in a place like that. It's extra dark inside in the shelter, so he was even more visually impaired. The bottom line is he couldn't cope, and there's so much more to it. If you heard him telling the story, which I wish everyone could hear these things and know these people like I do, but suffice it to say, he couldn't handle it. It's not a fit for him. So again, we have somebody who wants help, but you'll see him on the street. And I want to also say he was not one of the lucky ones to get one of these vouchers despite his disability. He's still on the street and he's on a waiting list for housing, a waiting list that in the absence of that special funding is years long, years. Okay, and that's just Wes when he was getting displaced from a camp at one time. Okay, so I want to end on a, I'm not quite ending, but I want to tell a somewhat decent story, and this will be the last story of my people. So PJ became homeless when he moved in with his parents to help care for them. And then after, I forget if it was 2 or 4 years, but you know, his mother died and finally his father died. And the person who was taking over the trust that his parents had left for him and some of the grandkids kicked him out of the family home immediately. And then despite their fiduciary duty, they're not giving him enough money to live on. This was before he was a senior, so he didn't have any income from Social Security. But so he did not have enough to live on, and he became homeless. And he wanted help from the beginning. He went to shelters. He worked with practically every service provider in, you know, South Orange County, actually even parts of Central Orange County, and he just wasn't getting help. So thankfully, he also was one of the people that got housing voucher through the COVID funding. And I really don't want to give the wrong impression. I'm telling you, they're very few and far between, and they don't exist anymore. So we go back to the years-long waiting list. But PJ did get one of them, and I could say so much about this process. It took several months to get him from the voucher into an apartment. And the only reason he got into an apartment, and I'm sorry, I'm not boasting, I'm just telling the truth, is because I was helping him. Because again, the case managers, they just don't have enough to give the help that's needed. And also because I had applied for him at a affordable housing complex for seniors a year and a half ago, before he even had this voucher. So it just worked out that he came up on the waiting list, he had this voucher, and he was able to move in to a home. So this is PJ and his dog Snowball. And so he now, he's got his apartment. He actually, it's a long story, but he even got his driver's license and a car. That's the day he got the car. And this is a text that he sent to me. Because he's getting more stable, he's able to connect with his daughter. And then his daughter informed him that she located a whole bunch of family that he didn't even know existed. He was adopted, and his daughter found all these half siblings that he didn't even know existed. And he's already had the opportunity to have a phone call with one of his biological half sisters. And this is the text he sent me. I've got a family again. Things keep getting better. And I hope I deserve this. And I haven't said that out loud, but when I do, it makes me tear up because of course it's okay. I have so much more to say, and I see that I have like maybe 1 minute left, so I'm going to see if I can get to anything. So solutions, this is going to have to go fast, but I mean, the big solution, housing. People need housing. That's it. That's the only thing that's going to end people's homelessness. And then this is important too, so I'm going to try to get to this. Okay, so one day I had spent the day when a whole bunch of people were getting displaced. In fact, you saw the slide of where Wes was getting evicted from a camp and carrying all his belongings. So it was that day. I'd spent the whole day there watching these people trying to figure out what belongings they could keep and what they had to leave behind. I saw them while their houses or homes, I'm sorry, were being bulldozed. And I just thought to myself, what is everyone going to say in the coming days? And I knew that the narrative was going to be, well, they were all offered services and refused. And I know that's not true. And so I thought to myself, you know, it's one thing to not have housing or help for people, but at least be honest about it. And this is what we need. We need the powers that be to be honest about the lack of resources. There's not enough housing assistance for the people who qualify. To be honest, that the process of getting help takes months and years. Be honest about the insufficient numbers of shelter beds, county-wide, but especially in South County. We have one shelter for all of South County. Be honest that the shelters aren't even an appropriate fit for many, many people like Wes. And be honest that we desperately need affordable and supportive housing to prevent homelessness, like what happened to Barb, and supportive housing for people who are going to need extra support to stay housed. And I'm looking at my time. According to me, I'm right at 20 minutes. I wanted to say a little more about something we call housing first, but I will leave that aside. And then if people have questions after the service, I'll be happy to stay and answer any questions if you want to hear more about how housing is a solution, and it's even a cost-effective solution to homelessness. And I feel like I rushed through so much, so I hope if I didn't answer anything, people will stick around and ask questions and even keep in touch if you need to. So thank you so much for having me. And that's all, and I will stop sharing my screen as soon as I find the button. Okay, there we go.
Oh, thanks so much, Maura. That just fills my heart. That's a situation and we should be able to deal with in some way. I hope that you can maybe provide information about advocacy for housing, you know, who to write to, who to talk to. I think it would be desired by a large part of us today. But anyway, thank you so much. And Maura will be here at the end of the service to answer questions. So we appreciate that. We've come to the place where we sing our closing hymn, and today's is number 102 in the Teal Handbook, and it's Comfort Me. But the words are also in the chat.
Hello. So this song was really not familiar to us, but it's really pretty and fitting, I think. So I'm going to sing it through just once, and then you guys can come in with me and we'll do verse one again. Okay? So here's a listen for you. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, all my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Go, comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me. Sing with me. Sing with me. Sing with me. Oh my soul. Sing with me. Sing with me. Sing with me. Oh, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me. Oh, my soul.
It's a beautiful hymn that Carol selected. I appreciate that she is so willing to help find music when I'm not able to. I appreciate that, Carol. It's a beautiful hymn. We now will extinguish our candle. May the light of faith open our hearts to our loved ones, our neighbors, the beings with whom we share this planet. Lead us to reach out to others in compassion. Turn us toward one another in mercy, in right relationship and reconciliation. Thank you. we will now sing our closing song, Let There Be Peace on Earth, for everybody.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With earth as our mother, we are family. Let's walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my song of to take each moment, live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth. Let it begin with me. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Carol.
Carol.